Arena! Hey, Chris in the house with another Raid Shadow Legends video. And today, guys, directly from the server. Yeah, this video is going to be a quick one, just to share with you all the news. This is going to be a massive update, bringing so many things in so many areas that it's hard to put everything in one single video. So this is going to be the first video, and we're going to do videos alone to talk about every specific thing that's going to be launched here. Let's take a general view, starting with the champion rebalances. We have two champions rebalances on this new update. The first one, the mythical Galeos, the cock. And the other one, it's going to be Norog, the pig. So let's take a look at them. First, Norog now has a new kit. He's basically a tank with some immunities to debuffs and capable of doing some debuffs. Really simple kit. A1, attack one enemy, has 55% of chance, booked to 75% chance of decreasing the duration of all buffs on the target by 1 turn. Interesting effect for an A1, first part. Also has 100% chance of placing block active skills debuff for 1 turn. Really impactful A1, interesting. A2, Ice Pillar, 3 turns cooldown when booked. Attack all enemies, places block buffs, debuff, and 60% decrease defense for 2 turns. So, block debuffs and decrease defense, similar to Yugo skill. Exactly equal to Yugo skill, based on defense. And the passive, he's immune to stun, freeze, sleep, fear, true fear, provoke, ship, and petrification debuffs. Interesting. So he can safely put the decreased defense without being affected by the polymorph or things like that. But he needs accuracy to land it. And affinity matters because it's an attack that deals damage. And there's a secondary part for his skill, what makes him viable for all second teams. Decrease the damage taken by all allies that are under 1 or more buffs by 15%. A rather huge damage decrease, but it gets even better. The damage reduction increases to 25% for all allies if they are under no active buffs. So if your ally it's without buffs on his head, he's going to be 25% more tank, which is interesting. But I would like to say that that alone doesn't bring him to meta, at my opinion. So I still think he's not going to be used many places. If you can do the same thing he does for utility here on decrease defense and block buffs with epic champions, you're gonna probably use the epic champions. That damage decreasing can be useful, but I don't know if it's going to be worth using him just for that, unless you're a whale. So in general, it was better than he was before, undoubtedly, but I don't think he's going to be an extremely impactful champion. The other rebalance was on the also Skinwalker champion, but the mythical, the cock, Galeos Bloodcrest. Interesting champion, and now if he has enough damage, it's going to be a interesting nuker. Because this A1, attack one enemy, places decrease the speed buff for 2 turns. When counterattacking, the damage inflicted by this skill is based on this champion's death and the enemy max HP. So he hits hard on bosses when counterattacking, which is interesting. A2, attack all enemies, places provoke debuff for 1 turn. If the target is a boss, places provoke debuff for 2 turns instead. Also places unkillable buff on this champion for 1 turn and a counterattack buff on then for 2 turns. Interesting skill. Interesting skill, but not crazy. Got a slightly better damage. A3, here's when the magic starts. Fully restores all allies destroyed max HP. Interesting. Also places Revive on Death buff and 60% increased defense buff on all allies for 2 turns. Then grants an extra turn. That's that line here. It's the thing that changes everything, because now he's able to self-buff. The passive also got one more thing. Rule of the Roost. Reflects 50% of the damage this champion receives back to the attacker. That already happened. If the attacker is a boss, reflects 100% of the damage this champion receives. That already happened, but now he also heals this champion by 50% of the damage received. Interesting. Now he gets this part. The second part, when he transforms, now he can self-buffs, increase defense. Take that in mind. Because on the second form, all the skills got amplifications on the damage multipliers. His A1, attack one enemy, places an extra hit on all enemies under decreased defense. Interesting. Can be an AoE, which is good. A2, now it starts to become good. Attack all enemies, before attacking, places decreased defense debuff for 2 turns. This effect cannot be resisted, so he does not need accuracy to land these. Damage increases by 10% for each enemy under decreased defense debuff. Also steals 20% of the turn meter from each enemy. For that part, he needs accuracy. For that part, stealing turn meter, he needs accuracy, but he ignores 20% of the resistance. There's one interesting thing. Usually for a nuker, you don't want to land many debuffs because you have the chance of being polymorphed, but his new passive, Unholy Experiment, makes him immune to stun, freeze, sleep, fear, true fear, provoke, ship, and petrification, which makes him champion immune to CC. Also, randomly resets the cooldown of one of these champions' skills whenever they kill an enemy, occurs once per turn. So, when landing this decreased defense, you don't have to fear being polymorphed. That's really good, because you can land that before attacking, steal turn meter and nuke. That skill got a slightly better amplification on the multiplier. Gonna see if that's enough when we make a video specialized on this champion only. A3, Sonic Torture. 4 turns cooldown, attack all enemies, will ignore 20% of each target's defense if they have no buffs, and ignores block damage buffs. So he becomes a counter with the Siegfried when he activates the passive, to the Knights when they activated the passive, to the Odin when he activates the passive. It's really cool, that. And he's good affinity to face this kind of champion, like Siegfried and Knights. Damage increases by 15% for each buff on each target. So if you have a champion with 10 buffs, they're going to be hit by 150% more damage, which is interesting. If they don't have buffs, you ignore defense. If they have buff, you're gonna have amplification on your damage. And decrease the duration of all enemy buffs by 2 turns. So he can also take away the buffs of your enemy teams while looking, which is interesting. This champion needs accuracy to do this effect, the decreased duration of all enemy buffs, but he also, as a mythical, ignores resistance here. Is that enough? We're gonna see on the test that we're going to make on a video just for him. These are the first part, the rebalance. There's more. There's a lot more. We also have 3 new champions. On the demon spawns, we have Praeva, the Slitherer. This is how she looks. Her kit is basically A1, attack one enemy, transfer all debuffs from this champion to the target. This effect cannot be resisted if this champion is under 3 or more debuffs. Very situational. A2, heals all allies by 25% of this champion max HP. She has a decent base HP. Then places increased defense buff and increases speed buff on all allies for 2 turns. Interesting but not crazy. A heal with some buffs. A3, 4 turns cooldown when booked, revives a single ally with 100% HP and half turn meter, fully resets the cooldown of all of their skills. Okay, it's a revive, fully refreshing the skills. That's interesting. Looks like an epic, a skill from an epic that we already have, which is interesting, but don't know. Passive, sacrifice, sacrificial servant. At the start of this champion turns, transfers 1 debuff from each ally to this champion. Will not transfer stun, sleep, freeze, provoke, fear, true fear, petrification, or ship debuffs. This effect cannot be resisted or blocked. If there are multiple champions on the team with these skills, only one will be activated. At the end of these champion turns, fill the turn limit of all allies by 10% and an additional 2% for each debuff on this champion. If there are multiple champions on the team with this skill, only activated once. Really situational. She has a really good base speed. She has an increased ally speed aura in all battles by 20%. Just by reading her kit, I don't think is an amazing champion. Very situational. She doesn't have a active speed boost, just a passive one. And a very situational passive one, which is strange. She drags the debuffs to herself, but she will not drag the most important debuffs. Stun, sleep, freeze, provoke. So the crowd control debuffs, she will not drag. And she transfers the debuffs that she drags with the A1. Interesting, but not crazy. I wouldn't say it's a strong champion. More to I would say, good to have a reviver. Can help you on the faction wars. And we're gonna talk about that a little bit later on the video. But in general, not a very strong champion, I would say. Now, we also have a new Sylvan Watchers called Nyanhe. Nyahan, the Spear of Nireza. Sylvan Watchers Void Affinity champion. So another Void Affinity to the Sylvan Watchers. This one's a legendary defense base. A1, attack one enemy, places a 50% decrease attack debuff and a 30% decrease critical hit debuff on the target for 2 turns. Has a 50% of chance that these debuffs cannot be resisted or blocked. Interesting. Can be strong to an A1 because can be booked to 75% of chance of doing that, which is interesting. But let's see the other parts of the kit. Cerulean Ward. 5 turns cooldown, can be booked to 4. Attack one enemy. If the target has 50% HP or less, this attack will be always critical and will ignore 50% of the target's defense. Okay, so she will probably hit hard if the target already have lost 50% of the HP. Places a shield buff on all allies for 2 turns. The value of the shield is equal to the difference between this target's current HP and the target's max HP. Oh, okay. Interesting. We need to see that happening to see if it's a good skill or not. If the target is a boss, the value of the shield is proportional to this champion defense. Oh, okay, I was thinking about bosses when I read this skill because it could be a huge shield. But it's going to be a Valkyrie-like shield when we're facing bosses. Interesting. Maybe the skin hit hard, I don't know. If the target skill, it also reduces the cooldown of all ally skills by 2 turns. Okay, looks like a PvE champion at the moment. A3, 4 turns cooldown, can be booked to 3 turns, heal all allies. The value of the heal is proportional to this champion defense. Also places a block debuffs and a 50% ally protection buff on all allies for 2 turns. Interesting. So she's a support. Passive. Places a block damage buff on all allies for 1 turn at the start of the round, and each time this champion HP drops below 50%. Interesting. If there are multiple champions on the team with this skill, only one will activate it. Okay. That's interesting. That's interesting because she becomes a counter to Hegemon. She is a counter to Hegemon now. This champion can counter Hegemon because if she's on the team and you put her as the first champion you pick, if a nuke goes on your team, she will put block damage on all allies for 1 turn, which is interesting. At the beginning of the fight, she will also put the block damage. She seemed like a PvE champion, but with this passive, she can be used on the PvP. So, Nianhe might have a usage for the PvP. Really interesting, just because of that passive. We might take advantage of her. And she will also be a somehow counter to bombs and things like that, isn't it? You're going to start the battle with the block damage. Really interesting champion. Really interesting champion, just because of the passive. And there's more. I think this one is what makes everything special. Use all of the Jade. I didn't test it yet, but we will test all these champions in a specific video. And this kit is the one that took me a lot of attention, because he's a nuker, legendary green affinity nuker, attack based. He does not have a very insane attack. He just have a mediocre attack, which is bad signal for nuker. But when we read his kit, read it with me. Ruthless X-Master A1, attack 1 enemy, normal, has 20% of chance of guaranteeing an extra turn. Good amount of chances, looks like Rotus. If this attack kills an enemy, grants an extra turn. Interesting. If it doesn't kill, you have the normal 20% chance of getting the extra turn. If it's killed, it's guaranteed. A2, Stone-Hearted skill. 4 turns cooldown, can be booked to 3 turns cooldown. Attack all enemies before attacking. Reduces the value of any shield buff or all enemies by 100%. So, he absolutely destroys any shield. And places a 60% decreased defense debuff on them for 2 turns. This effect cannot be resisted if this skill was used on an extra turn. So, this is a champion that uses a lot of extra turn mechanics. Take a look. Interesting skill. An AoE that can remove shield and put decreased defense. Interesting. Unresistible if it's during the next turn. And this skill has a 20% of chance of granting the next turn. These chances increases by 10% for each critical hit. So if you nuke a team and deliver 4 on arena and deliver 4 critical hits, this skill has 60% of chances of get extra turn. So 20% here normally, 100% if you get a kill, 20% normally, plus 10% for each critical hit. Interesting kit. It screams muscle set on it. A3, and that's, if have a good multiplier, will be one of the strongest damage dealing skills in the game, because you cannot survive it. Look at that. 4 turns cooldown can be broken to 3 turns cooldown. All his kit has 3 turns cooldown, and he gets a lot of extra turns. It will refresh really quickly, the skills. A3. Attack 1 enemy, will ignore shield, block damage, and unkillable. You cannot survive. Also, ignores Stone Skin and 100% of the target's defense if this skill is used on an extra turn or instant turn. Basically, you ignore everything that makes you survive. Look at these. If that skill has a decent multiplier, it's going to target someone and someone's going to die. Because you're going to ignore shield, block damage, unkillable, Stone Skin, and all the defense. This champion screams 9 pieces of muscles, and he's a really good combo with Shuzan. Also, oh gosh, and there's more. Passive. Jade King increases the chance for all allies to gain extra turn by 5%. So, all your allies has the 5% chance of getting extra turns. That's unbelievably good just by itself, and there's more. If there are multiple champions on that team with this skill, only one will activate, normal. This champion deals 25% more damage on exatons. All his kit gets exatons, and he benefits from that, and he does the chance. He gives a chance of exaton for your entire team. Also has a light attack battle aura in all battles by 33%. 9 merciless piece on this champion. The set is green, the champion's green. I really want to test him. I really want to test him because he seems like an incredible nuker on the paper. Hopefully, this base attack here does not reflect the real situation of the champion, that he sucks. Hopefully not, because his kit is really interesting. Really, really, really interesting. Should be a really fun champion to play with. I even like his design, the jade weapons. Really cool. Want to test him. There will be a video specific testing all the champions. That's not all. The biggest thing is coming on this update. It's here. On the Faction Wars. The highly weighted Faction Wars hard. So we are going to have the glyphs now with rarity, uncommon, rare, epic, and legendary glyphs. The 6-star glyphs now common has the same effect as a 6-star normal glyph that we already know, but the 6-star rare and beyond has a higher initial number and a great maximum number. That applies from everything. HP percentage flat, attack percentage flat, defense percentage flat, speed. Now can the legendary speed glyphs gives between 7 and 12. Resistance and accuracy. Oh gosh. Oh gosh. It almost gives you 50% more on the legendary maximum roll on the glyphs. Really interesting mechanics. We're gonna talk about of everything here on a specific video. We're gonna test the rooms, we're gonna test the boss, everything. It's going to be really cool, and a specific video around it is going to be there soon. And we also going to get the normal materials that we already get on the Faction Wars, plus relic crafting materials from all kind of rarity, from rare to epic to legendary to mythical. And you can see here the kind of glyphs that you can get. 5 on the beginning, 4 to 6 star. In the end, 5 to 6 star. Here, the materials that you can get. And here, you can see the crafting materials that you can get. And the rarity you can get. After stage 6, 7 and beyond, you start getting epic relic crafting materials. After stage 10, stage 11 and beyond, you start getting rare, epic, and legendaries. After stage 16, you're starting to get mythical materials until stage 21, when you're going to get rare, epic, legendary, and the mythical materials. Really interesting. We're gonna take a look at everything here. There's also a new thing around that. Instead of only 2x super raids, we're going to be triple x super raids for the Faction Wars, so you can use your keys quickly. That's really interesting. It will make it simpler. Huge content. We're gonna make a video talking about everything about this content, and with it there is also the new rewards from all the levels that you're going to climb collecting stars. You're going to get new materials here, and these materials you're going to collect until the end, and in the end it ends with a mythical champion, Polara, that we all gonna be able to get. Polara the Fireheart. Look at this champion here. There is a visual bug here. with the fireball. We are on the test server, things like that happen, but they will probably fix it before launching. We already reported that. So this is the first form, this is the second form. She goes from fire twice. Look at these, really cool. Really cool design. Let's take a look at her kit. Interesting, her kit is based on defense and attack, but it says she's an attack-based champion, but her multiplier is higher on defense. Interesting. She's a mythical champion, red affinity from the Sacred Order faction. Everybody is going to get her in the end of the faction was hard. Her A1 Burning Zeal, attack one enemy, places an extra hit if the target is under any debuffs. Interesting. Has a 25% of granting an extra turn, so can extra hit and can get an extra turn. Interesting A1. A2, 4 turns can be booked to 3 turns. Attack one enemy 3 times. Each hit will ignore 25% of the target's defense. Each hit will also ignores 50% of the target's defense instead if the target is under HP burn debuff or freeze debuff. Okay. Can be a really hard hitting skill probably. She has really decent attack and really decent defense. Oh my god. 2 multipliers with very high base stats. She can be able to hit huge. And look at these. Each hit also destroys the target's defense and resistance by 3%, stacks up to 30%. So, long battles on the bosses, she will make your team do a lot more damage. That's incredible. Places a HP burn debuff on all enemies for 2 turns. If the target's killed by these skills, this debuff cannot be resisted. Okay. Really interesting, based on defense and attack. A3, Pyro Maxima. 4 turns cooldown can be booked for 3 turns cooldown. Attack all enemies. This attack deals single target damage to each target individually, rather than AoE. Will ignore shield, block damage, and unkillable. Interesting. Instantly activates any HP burn debuffs on all enemies. Interesting. Places a block revive debuff on targets that are killed while under HP burn debuff or a freeze debuff based on defense and attack. Okay. It's an AoE that acts like a single target that ignores shield, block damage, and unkillable, procs HP burn, and if kill someone during HP burn or freeze, puts block revive. Really interesting. Really interesting. Passive. Elemental Mistress. This champion deals 25% more damage. Okay. Against enemies under a HP burn debuff or a freeze debuff. This champion deals 100% more damage against enemies under both HP burn and freeze. Oh my god, she's going to combo with champions like Gizmak and Tormin and things like that. This debuff ignores the damage reduction granted by freeze debuff. Oh gosh. She's capable of maybe doing a lot of damage. She has 2 sources of damage, very good base stats for these 2 sources. She has ignore mechanics. She has ignore effects mechanics. Oh gosh, the first form looks incredible. On paper, we're gonna test it on a separated video. On the second form, the freeze form, A1, here says it's defense-based mythical on the second form. And indeed, all the skills, oh, it's only one that it's damage dealing. It's based on defense. So we're gonna build her with higher defense than attack. Glassroll Carve. Attack one enemy, places a light protection buff on a random ally except this champion for 2 turns. If the random selected ally is a red under ally protection buff, places it on another randomly selected ally. Use this champion and any allies under ally protection buffs. The value of the heal is proportional to this champion defense. Interesting, A1. You're going to spread ally protection and healing just by A1ing. A2. 4 turns cooldown can be booked to 3 turns cooldown. Frozen Trendius. Places block debuffs and strength debuff on all allies, normal skew. Places 100% snare debuff on all enemies for 2 turns. This debuff cannot be resisted by enemies under HP burn debuff or freeze debuff. Okay, we have a new debuff here, snare. Let's take a look at it. And there is also another new debuff, the fatigue. Here, snare and fatigue. Snare, there is a lower version and a full version. Any turn meter increase effect received by a champion with the snare debuff will be reduced by 50% on the first form or 100% on the full form. Interesting. New debuff that can deny turn meter increase. Interesting. And the fatigue, the other new debuff. Champions under fatigue debuff will receive a sleep debuff for 1 turn after using an active skill. If a champion with a fatigue debuff uses a skill that removes debuffs, the fatigue debuff will be removed and the sleep debuff will not be placed. Interesting. So, under fatigue, if you use any skill, you're going to sleep. Interesting. 8-3. Attack all enemies. Before attacking, places 1 intercept stack on all allies. Oh, she delivers intercept to the whole team. Places freeze debuff on all enemies for 1 turn. This debuff cannot be resisted. Okay, unresistible freeze debuff AoE, and you're gonna put intercept on yourself before attacking, so you're not going to be polymorphed by that. Really interesting. Passive. Cryomantic Revival. Passive effect of the passive. Allies under freeze debuff receive 90% less damage. If there are multiple champions on the team with this skill, only one will activate. Okay. If your team freezes, they gonna deny almost all damage. Crazy. Active effect of the passive. Once per round, revives each ally, including this champion, with 100% HP. Places a freeze debuff on the revived ally for 1 turn. This debuff cannot be resisted or blocked. Once per round. Oh gosh. Oh gosh. Revives each ally, including this champion with 100% HP and freezed. So it's a timing passive for the whole team. Crazy. Crazy. And the freezed champion cannot almost be damaged. Crazy. Really interesting kit. We're gonna test it in a separated video. And there is more. Since you saw the crafting materials from the new Faction Wars hard mode, there is also new relics. Torch of Thraldom, the mythical new relic, gives HP, defense, and attack. The wearers has their stats increased by 1% at the maximum of 2.5 plus 1.5, 4%, more 1%, 5% per each ally from the same faction, and has one slot of each kind here on this mythical relic. So, for each champion on the same faction, you're gonna have 5% more stats on your champion. Interesting for teams. Interesting Siege for defenses that uses faction units and things like that. Can be impactful. Relic. That's a lot of stats. 20% if you have 4 champions of the same faction. Interesting. Second relic has 2 pentagonals, 1 square and 1 circle. Gives you accuracy, speed, and HP. Interesting. Gives speed, it's interesting in red. Effect. The wearers has 25% chance of placing fatigue debuff for 1 turn with each hit. Oh my god. This effect's chance goes up to 25, 35, 60% in total. Oh my god, imagine a Marius with that he delivers 12 hits. Everybody on the team is going to be fatigued. That's interesting. It's another version of the Stormcaller. The Stormcaller delivers stun, which is a lot stronger, I think. But that's interesting. The fatigue is a really interesting debuff. I think that's a powerful relic, and it gives attack and speed, which is incredible. Let's see, Eternal Sogal, the first legendary one, gives HP, attack, and critical damage. Really different. The first hit received by the wearer from each enemy in a round will deal 10% less damage, so it's a tanky relic. Each subsequent hit from each enemy that round will deal 5% less damage. Okay, so it's a really good damage mitigation skill. Relic. The damage reduction on the first hit, it was 10%, can go up to 40%. Oh gosh. Goodbye initial killing damage on a champion with that. The first hit on the champion is for each enemy is going to be reduced by 40% at maximum level, and each subsequent hit by 10% at maximum level. Okay. Interesting. For example, the horse. The first hit, 40% less damage. The second hit, less 10% damage. The third hit, less 10% damage if the relic is on the maximum. So it's a powerful damage mitigation relic. Screams go second team. The Collective, another legendary relic, gives critical damage. Really interesting. HP and speed. Okay. Wearers deals 1% more damage per buff on them. Okay, more 1%, more 1%, more 2%. So in total, 5% per each buff in the maximum. Removes all buffs from the wearer at the end of the turn. Okay, that might change things on Hydra and Chimera and Clan Boss, because a 10 buff champion can do 50% more damage. That's really high. I think that can bring Yumeko teams back to the top one on Hydra, because you can replace all your buffs every turn, so your nuker can always hit with 50% more damage. The Collective is going to be a massive relic for Hydra, maybe Chimera. Seems like really interesting. Hammer of Ending. The first epic gives HP, attack, and critical damage. Wearers has 50% chance to place an unresistible stun debuff on a single target for one turn whenever they reduce a target's HP by 30% or more with a single skill. Okay, the chance goes up to 15, 25, 35, 40% chance. Seems like a good relic to champions that can do AoE damage, very powerful AoE damage. Interesting. Champions like Marius can take a huge advantage of it if you don't have a Stormcaller. This can be the budget version of Stormcaller. Perched Shadow. Do you remember Uzol, the dwarf? Take a look at this relic. HP, defense, and speed. Wearer has a 10% chance to receive an extra turn when using their default skill. If at least one active skill is on cooldown, the chance goes up for more 10%. No, 12%. 22% chance. I think that combos with Uzol and is an epic. And can combo with a lot of other champions. I think it can be a really good Chimera relic. You can put that on champions like Galathir. You're going to use a skill, their healing skill. You're gonna A1 after, and you might get an extra turn for that. I think that is going to be extremely powerful epic relic. The Perched Shadow. Arachna Elixir. That gives attack, HP, and accuracy. It seems really powerful also. Wearer's poison debuffs deals bonus damage equal to 50% of the wearer's attack. Damage increases by 100%. So the damage bonus of the poisons is equal to 150% of the target's attack. Can you imagine champions like the Gnishrak that has bombs based on attack, and when the bombs explode, they will put poisons that you can put lethal dose as blessing to these poisons, do a lot of damage, and these poisons will do half of the champion's attack as damage. There is Gnishraks with 10k attack there. 10k attack with attack up is going to be 15k attack. 150% of 15k attack, it's going to deal in an incredible amount of damage on poisons. Like, unbelievable amount of damage. These can bring champions like Nishrak or now to the top of the meta, and is a rare relic. This is crazy. This is crazy. A rare relic. Let's go. Codex Luminis. Wearers receive 5% less damage from champions that have a different affinity. Interesting, really interesting. It's a rare, so we're gonna get a lot of them. We're going to do faction wars every day, so we're going to farm this kind of relics. So to farm really powerful relics, most of the relics here are useful, and we're gonna probably farm them. So this is a really interesting relic. We can use that on champions that we don't know what to use, and we're gonna take benefits from that on the PvE and PvP. 5% less damage goes up to 10% less damage from champions that have different affinities. You put that on champions and you're gonna have 10% damage mitigation. If you don't know what to use in a champion, you can use the Codex Luminis. Really interesting. I think every single relic here is useful. It's useful. And since we're going to farm faction wars every day, I think we're going to farm that. I'm happy. I'm happy with the results of these relics. I think they are a lot better than the ones we saw on the live arena group. From these relics here, I think only these two are really useful. The mythicals. If you compare to the faction wars, I think every one of them are really useful. And we have very impactful effects on the rares and the epics until the mythical. I think we have more impactful effects even on the epics and the rares than you have on the legendary and the mythicals. So for sure we need testing, a lot of testing. That's going to take time, effort, team buildings and things like that. But I see a lot of potential in a lot of these relics. We also going to have more slots added to the champions here. We can buy 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 8, 9, 10, 100. We can buy 100 more slots on the champions area, and we can also buy on the reserve vault 20, 30, 40, 50. No, just 50. Just 50 more. Oh, I thought it was 100. So just 50 more on the reserve vault, 100 more on the normal champions, nothing on the master vault. This should be on the master vault, but I'm already happy with these 100 here. It's going to make the difference, and I showed you the value of gems and silver. And there's more. For champions, this is a miscellaneous effect. For champions that use detonations of HP burn and poisons, a full detonation, not a one-turn detonation, a full detonation. For example, a Theodore has some turns detonation here. It detonates a turn of poison and HP burn. We're not talking about this champion. We are talking about champions like Xavier, that fully detonates the poison. All poisons debuff. The same happens to all HP burn champions. These champions were not taking the damage of the masteries and mitigations and blessings into account while doing this kind of all-in explosion on HP burn and poisons, and this is now fixed. If you have, for example, lethal dose or incinerate blessings that puts a higher damage on them on the PvP, if you're using champions like that detonates, fully detonates this kind of thing, they are going now to take in consideration the extra damage mitigation or amplification of blessings, masteries, and passives on these HP burn and poisons. I think that's really interesting. Champions that can fully pop poison and HP burn with a maxed lethal dose or a maxed incinerate can one-shot champions now, probably. So, I said it was going to be a quick video, but as I said, this is a massive update. We're gonna have separate videos talking specifically for each area of that. The new champions, the rebalance champions, the faction wars. And we're gonna test the relics also. That's it, guys. This is Chris in the house. If you like this kind of content, and as always, remember, it's all about arena.